The Intergalactic Combat Institute didn't look like much from the outside, just another orbital station spinning lazily against the backdrop of a purple nebula. But inside? Inside was where the galaxy's finest warriors came to prove they were worth the air they breathed. Or, the methane. Or the sulfur dioxide. Whatever kept their particular biology ticking. Pinnacle 9, they called it. Catchy name for a place where recruits regularly got their asses handed to them by instructors who'd seen more combat than most species had seen sunrises. The scanning checkpoint hummed with that particular frequency that said, "Expensive technology at work." Recruits filed through one by one, each stepping into the cylindrical chamber that would measure their combat potential. The system was simple, elegant, and, according to its manufacturers, completely infallible. It analyzed muscle density, reaction speed, natural weaponry, skeletal structure, neural processing capacity, and about 600 other factors that determined whether you were going to be a galactic peacekeeper or a very expensive casualty statistic. The numbers appeared above each recruit's head as they exited. Holographic, floating, impossible to fake. Plix strutted through with his chitinous chest puffed out, mandibles clicking in satisfaction. 83. Not bad for an Uxthari. His exoskeleton gleamed under the station's lights, natural armor plating that had taken his species millions of years to evolve. He looked like someone had crossed a praying mantis with a tank and given it an attitude problem. 83, he announced to anyone within earshot, which, given the acoustics of the intake hall, was everyone. Highest score today, naturally. Horm lumbered through next, his massive frame barely fitting through the scanner. The Lokun stood nearly 3 meters tall, covered in thick fur that ranged from deep brown to almost black. He looked like someone had taken a bear, scaled it up, given it opposable thumbs, and taught it to feel guilty about its own strength. His score flickered into existence. 89. "Oh," Horm rumbled, his voice like distant thunder apologizing for the inconvenience. "That seems high? I hope that's acceptable?" Plix's mandibles stopped clicking. The line continued. 62, 58, 91. That got some appreciative whistles. 66, 74. The scores painted a picture of the galaxy's diverse approach to violence. Some species were built for it, others had to work harder, but everyone here had enough potential to be dangerous. Then Anna stepped up to the scanner. Now, here's the thing about humans. They'd only been part of the galactic community for about 15 months. 15 months! That's barely enough time to figure out where the good restaurants are, let alone establish a reputation. Most species had spent their first few years in the community being aggressively diplomatic, trying to make friends, proving they weren't going to immediately start a war or accidentally contaminate someone's biosphere. Humans had done all that. They'd been polite, professional, and remarkably good at filling out paperwork. But they'd also been quiet, especially about military matters. When the Institute had extended an invitation for human participation in their training programs, the response had been a polite, "We'll send an observer." Anna was that observer. She looked, by galactic standards, aggressively average. No natural armor, no claws, no fangs, no venom sacs, no extra limbs, no bioluminescence, no exoskeleton, just a bipedal mammal standing about 1.6 meters tall, with dark hair pulled back in a practical ponytail, and eyes that seemed to catalog everything they saw. She wore the standard Institute jumpsuit that all recruits received, gray and unremarkable. She stepped into the scanner. The hum changed pitch. Subtle at first, then more pronounced. The holographic display above the scanner flickered. Numbers began to appear, then dissolved, appeared again, dissolved again. Then the display went completely haywire. Instead of a nice, clean number, the hologram showed unknown. Then error. Then recalibrating. Then back to unknown. The scanning chamber's lights stuttered. Somewhere in the intake hall, a secondary system beeped in distress. The recruit behind Anna, a Feltian with 6 eyes and an expression that suggested deep concern about the structural integrity of the universe, took 3 steps backward. Anna stood perfectly still in the scanner, waiting, patient, like someone who'd spent a lot of time waiting for technology to figure itself out. A technician scuttled over, their tentacles flying across a data pad. This is never... The system is functioning normally, but it can't... It's not that it's not reading anything, it's that it's reading something it doesn't have a category for. Is that bad? Anna asked. Her voice was calm, pleasant even. The kind of voice that suggested she was genuinely curious about the answer and wouldn't be offended either way. I don't know? The technician's translator struggled with the inflection. You can proceed. We'll file a report. Anna stepped out of the scanner. Above her head, where a number should have been floating, there was just empty air. The holographic projector had given up entirely. Plix's laughter echoed through the hall. The human broke the scanner, couldn't even register, probably read 0, and the system couldn't believe something that pathetic showed up. A few other recruits chittered or growled or made whatever sound their species used for amusement. Anna didn't react. She just collected her assigned datapad from the processing station and moved toward the orientation hall with the rest of the group. But here's what nobody noticed except Horm, because Horm noticed things that others missed. Anna's eyes had tracked every exit, every security station, every instructor, and every potential weapon in the intake hall. She'd done it without moving her head, without any obvious scanning behavior, just awareness, the kind of awareness that predators have, or prey that survived long enough to become something else entirely. The orientation hall was exactly what you'd expect from a military training facility, aggressively functional. Rows of seats designed to accommodate wildly different physiologies. Holographic displays ready to show training modules. And at the front, standing on a raised platform, was Instructor Calix. Calix was a Morthian, and Morthians were what happened when evolution decided that 2 arms were for quitters. He stood nearly 2.3 meters tall, his scales a deep emerald green that darkened to almost black along his spine. 4 arms, each corded with muscle that spoke of decades of combat training. His eyes, 3 of them, arranged in a triangle on his face, tracked the incoming recruits with the kind of focus that made prey animals nervous at a genetic level. He was, by all accounts, undefeated in personal combat. 63 years of military service. Instructor at the Institute for the last 12. His reputation preceded him like a shockwave. "Sit," he said. His voice didn't need amplification. It just filled the space, carrying the weight of absolute authority. Everyone sat. Calix's eyes swept across the assembled recruits. You are here because your species believes you have potential. Your governments, your militaries, your tribal councils, whatever structure produced you, they looked at you and thought, yes, this one might not die immediately in combat. Congratulations. You've met the absolute minimum threshold for not being completely useless. Plix's mandibles clicked nervously. This wasn't the inspirational speech he'd been expecting. The scanner you passed through, Calix continued, measures your biological potential. It tells us what you were born with, what your genetics gave you. And for most of you, that number is adequate. He made it sound like an insult. But here's what you need to understand. Your biology is the starting point, not the finish line. I've seen recruits with scores in the 90s wash out in the first month. I've seen recruits with scores in the 60s become exceptional peacekeepers. The number measures potential. I measure results. His three eyes settled on Anna. All three of them. Focused. You, human, stand up. Anna stood, still calm, still patient. The scanner couldn't read you, Galactic said. Interesting. In my experience, when technology fails, it's usually because there's nothing to measure. Would you say that's accurate? The hall went quiet. This was going to be entertaining or tragic. Possibly both. I'd say, Anna replied, her voice carrying clearly without any strain, that it depends on whether the technology is measuring the right things. Galactic's scales rippled, a Morthian expression that could mean either amusement or the prelude to violence. The right things. Enlighten us, human. What should it be measuring? That would depend on what you're trying to predict, Anna said. If you're measuring biological advantages in combat, then the scanner is probably very accurate. But biology is only one factor in combat effectiveness. Is that so? It wasn't a question. Galactic descended from the platform, his forearms moving with a grace that seemed impossible for something so large. He approached Anna's position. And what other factors matter, in your expert opinion? Training, experience, adaptability, decision-making under pressure, creativity, willingness to do what's necessary. Anna paused. Cultural context. Cultural context, Galactic repeated. He was close now, towering over her. The size difference was almost comical. You think your culture makes you dangerous, human? I think, Anna said carefully, that every species' culture shapes how they approach conflict. And that's worth considering. Galactic's laugh was sharp, barking. Well, let's test that theory. He turned to address the entire hall. Your first lesson at the Institute is this. Combat is not theoretical. It's not academic. It's not something you can talk your way through. It's physical, immediate, and unforgiving. To demonstrate this, I'll need a volunteer. Nobody volunteered. Shocking. No? Nobody wants to spar with me? How disappointing. Galactic's three eyes glinted. Then I'll choose. Human. You've had a lot to say about factors beyond biology. Let's see how those factors perform against someone with superior genetics, training, and experience. He walked to the equipment rack and selected 2 training blades. They were practice weapons, weighted and balanced like real blades, but with edges designed to bruise rather than cut. He tossed one to Anna. She caught it. Single hand, didn't fumble, didn't drop it. Just caught it. I should mention, Galactic said, taking a ready stance with his own blade, that this is a teaching demonstration. I'll be moving slowly, explaining proper form and technique. Pay attention. This is how a trained warrior moves. He began his demonstration, stepping forward with textbook precision. His blade moved in a controlled arc, the kind of strike designed to show students the proper angle of attack, the correct weight distribution, the ideal. Anna's hand moved. It wasn't a big movement, wasn't dramatic, just fast. Impossibly, absurdly fast. Her fingers closed around Galactic's blade mid-swing, stopping it cold. Then, with a twist of her wrist and a subtle shift of leverage that would make a physicist weep with joy, she plucked the weapon directly out of his grip. Galactic stood there, frozen, staring at his empty hand. Anna now held both blades. She examined them with the kind of mild curiosity someone might show when looking at an interesting rock. These are weighted incorrectly, she said, her tone conversational. The balance point is too far forward. It's compensating for species with different muscle distribution than humans. Makes sense for a multi-species facility, but it would throw off my technique. She handed both blades back to Calix, politely, like she was returning borrowed pens. The orientation hall was so quiet, you could hear the station's life support systems humming. Calix took the blades. All four of his hands had clenched into fists. "What?" he said slowly. "Just happened." "You were demonstrating proper form," Anna said. "I apologize for interrupting. Please continue." Plix's mandibles hung open. Horm's eyes were wide. Every recruit in the hall was staring. And Anna? Anna just stood there, patient and calm, like she hadn't just done something that should have been physically impossible. Calix's scales rippled again. Definitely not amusement this time. This was going to be an interesting training cycle. The thing about pride is that it's a universal constant. Doesn't matter if you're a human from Earth or a four-armed Morthian from the Kelthax system. Get embarrassed in front of a room full of people, and your brain does the same stupid thing. It doubles down. Calix's 3 eyes narrowed to slits. "Luck," he said flatly. "You caught me off guard. I was moving slowly for demonstration purposes." "Of course," Anna agreed. No sarcasm, no smugness, just polite acknowledgement, which somehow made it worse. "A real combat scenario," Calix continued, his voice taking on that particular edge that instructors use when they're about to make a terrible decision, requires full speed, full commitment. Perhaps a proper demonstration is in order. "I don't think that's necessary," Anna said. "I'm just here to observe today. Get familiar with the facility. Understand your training protocols." "I insist." Calix moved to the equipment rack again, this time selecting 2 blades with more weight to them. Still training weapons, but closer to actual combat specs. Unless the human is concerned about participating? Oh, that clever bastard. He'd just made it about species reputation. Refuse now, and every alien in this hall would go back to their homeworlds saying humans were cowards, who talked big but folded under pressure. Anna sighed. It was a small sound, barely audible, but it carried the weight of someone who'd really hoped to avoid this exact situation. "All right, if you insist. But let's establish parameters. What kind of sparring are we talking about?" "Standard engagement protocol," Calix said. "First to 3 touches wins. Touches must be clean. Blade contact on torso or head. Limb strikes don't count." "Safety protocols?" "Active. The blades will register contact but won't cause serious injury. The system will call touches automatically." He gestured to the holographic boundary markers that were already forming in the center of the hall, creating an impromptu sparring ring. "Unless you need additional protections?" "No," Anna said. "That's fine. When do you want to—" Calix attacked. No warning. No ready stance. Just immediate, explosive violence. All 4 arms moving in a coordinated assault pattern that he'd probably spent decades perfecting. High strike, low strike, thrust, slash. A combination designed to overwhelm an opponent's ability to track multiple threats. Anna wasn't there anymore. She'd moved laterally, just enough to make his strikes pass through empty air. Not a big movement. Not a dramatic dodge. Just not where the attacks were landing. Calix adjusted, pivoting with surprising speed for something his size. His lower left arm swept in a horizontal arc, meant to catch her in the ribs. Anna's training blade came up, deflecting the strike with minimal force. Just enough to redirect the momentum. His own strength carried his arm past her, opening his guard. She didn't take the opening, didn't counter-strike, just reset to a neutral position. You're supposed to be attacking, Calix growled. You said first to 3 touches, Anna replied. You didn't specify who had to initiate. The recruits watching were starting to understand that they were seeing something unusual. Horm leaned forward in his seat, his massive hands gripping his knees. Plix's mandibles clicked in a nervous rhythm. Calix came in again, this time with more control. Probing strikes, testing her defense, high, low, middle. Feints mixed with real attacks. The kind of combination that required an opponent to guess, to commit to a defense that might be wrong. Anna didn't guess. She just responded. Each strike was met with the minimum necessary movement. A deflection here, a sidestep there. Her blade moved in tight, efficient arcs that wasted no energy. You're fast, Calix admitted, but defense alone won't win fights. True, Anna said. Then she attacked. It wasn't like Calix's assault. No overwhelming flurry of strikes. No attempt to dominate through superior numbers of limbs. Just a single thrust, perfectly timed, aimed at the gap between his middle and lower right arms. Calix blocked it. Barely. The impact sent a visible shudder through his arm. You're stronger than you look, he said, and there was a note of genuine surprise in his voice. Leverage, Anna corrected, and timing. I'm not strong by human standards, let alone compared to a Morthian. But force equals mass times acceleration, and if you time the acceleration right, you can compensate for a lot of missing mass. She said this while blocking another combination of strikes, casually, like she was discussing the weather. Calix's scales were darkening, a sign of increased blood flow, elevated heart rate. He was working now. Actually working. You talk too much during combat. You started the conversation, Anna pointed out, then scored her first touch, a light tap on his left shoulder that made the U holographic scoring system chime. 1-0. The hall erupted in surprised chittering, growling, and various other sounds of alien astonishment. Calix's 3 eyes blazed. Lucky strike. Probably, Anna agreed. They reset. This time Calix didn't rush in. He circled, studying her, looking for patterns, weaknesses. His instructor brain was overriding his wounded pride, analyzing the problem in front of him. Anna circled with him, maintaining distance. Her eyes tracked all 4 of his arms, but also his feet, his center of balance, the subtle shifts in his posture that telegraphed his intentions. You've fought 4 armed opponents before, Calix said. It wasn't a question. No, Anna said. First time. Liar. I've fought 2 armed opponents who were holding 2 weapons. Similar problem. Different configuration. Calix feinted with his upper arms, then struck with his lower ones. A classic Morthian technique that exploited the natural tendency to track the higher threats. Anna dropped low, under the strikes, and swept her blade across his midsection. The system chimed again. 2-0. Impossible, Plix whispered from his seat. She's half his size, a quarter his mass, no natural weapons. How is she? She's reading him, Horm rumbled quietly. Watch her eyes. She's not reacting to his attacks. She's predicting them. And Horm was right. Anna wasn't fighting Calix's blades. She was fighting Calix. Every micro-expression, every weight shift, every preparatory tension in his muscles. She was reading all of it and responding to his intentions before they became actions. Calix realized it too. His next attack was pure chaos. No pattern, no technique, just aggressive, random strikes meant to be unpredictable. Anna took a hit. The blade caught her on the right shoulder. The system chimed. 2-1. There, Calix said, breathing harder now. You're not invincible. Never claimed to be, Anna said. Random attacks are harder to predict. Good adaptation. Stop, talking. They engaged again. This time it was faster, more intense. Calix had abandoned his teaching demonstration entirely. This was real combat, or as close to it as training weapons allowed. His forearms moved in a blur of strikes that would have overwhelmed most opponents through sheer volume. Anna's defense tightened. She was taking smaller steps now, conserving energy. Her blade moved in a defensive pattern that looked almost lazy, but somehow always ended up in the right place at the right time. Then she changed tactics. Instead of deflecting Calix's next strike, she moved into it, closed the distance so fast that his blade passed behind her. She was inside his reach now, too close for his weapons to be effective. Her blade touched his chest. Light contact. Precise. 3-1. The system chimed its final tone. Match over. Calix stood there, all four arms still raised in attack positions, breathing hard. Anna stepped back, lowering her blade. "Thank you for the demonstration," she said. "Your technique is impressive. The forearm coordination must take years to master." The hall was silent. Every recruit was staring, some with mandibles hanging open, some with eyes wide, some with whatever their species did when confronted with something that violated their understanding of how the universe worked. Calix's scales slowly returned to their normal color. He looked at Anna with an expression that might have been respect, or might have been the dawning realization that he'd made a terrible mistake. "What are you?" he asked quietly. "An observer," Anna said, "like I mentioned." From the back of the hall, a new voice spoke. It didn't come from a mouth. It came from everywhere and nowhere, a telepathic projection that felt like cool water against the mind. How fascinating. A shape floated into view. Instructor Lixmoth, the Ulfan, drifted through the air like a jellyfish through water. Their translucent body pulsed with bioluminescent patterns that shifted colors as they thought. "I believe," Lixmoth projected, "that we need to have a conversation about what, exactly, humans are observing for." Anna met the floating instructor's gaze. "I believe you're right." The observation deck of Pinnacle 9 offered a view that most species found either inspiring or terrifying, depending on their evolutionary relationship with heights and the void of space. Stars stretched out in every direction, the purple nebula casting everything in shades of violet and deep blue. It was the kind of view that made philosophers wax poetic about the infinite nature of existence. Anna was looking at her datapad. "You don't find the vista compelling?" Lixmoth floated nearby, their translucent form catching the nebula's light and refracting it into rainbow patterns across the deck. "It's beautiful," Anna said, not looking up. "But I've seen space before. This training manual, though, this is new. Your hand-to-hand combat doctrine is interesting. Very focused on leveraging natural biological advantages." "That would be because most species have natural biological advantages," Lixmoth projected, their mental voice carrying a hint of amusement. "Claws, venom, armor, extra limbs. Humans have what, exactly? Opposable thumbs." "Endurance," Anna said, finally looking up. "Persistence, adaptability, and yes, really excellent thumbs." Lixmoth pulsed a deep blue, their equivalent of a laugh. "I accessed your file, or rather, I tried to. Most of it is classified at a level that even Institute instructors can't breach. What little information is available lists your occupation as consultant. That's delightfully vague." "It's accurate." "Is it?" Lixmoth drifted closer. Their telepathic communication had an advantage over spoken language. It was very difficult to lie to someone who was projecting directly into your mind. Not impossible, but difficult. "You're not a recruit," That much is obvious. But you're also not military, are you? At least, not currently. Anna set down her datapad. No, not currently. But you were. For a while. It didn't suit me long term. Yet you move like someone with extensive combat training. You read Galactic like he was broadcasting his intentions. And you did it against a species you claim to have never fought before. Lixmoth's colors shifted to a curious green. So, I'll ask directly. What are you really doing here, Anna? There was a long pause. Outside the viewport, a supply ship drifted past, its running lights blinking in a steady pattern. The Institute invited humanity to participate in your training programs, Anna said finally. It was a generous offer. A way to integrate us into the Galactic peacekeeping forces, to show that we're committed to being part of the community. Yes, and you're here to observe whether our training is suitable for humans. Partly. And the other part? Anna smiled. It wasn't a happy expression. To assess whether your training would be effective against humans, if it ever came to that. Lixmoth's colors flickered through several shades before settling on a dark purple. That's remarkably honest. You're telepathic. Lying seemed inefficient. Fair point. Lixmoth drifted to the viewport, their forms silhouetted against the stars. So you're here to evaluate us as potential enemies? Potential is the key word, Anna said. Humanity has been part of the Galactic community for 15 months. We've been polite. We've followed protocols. We've signed treaties. But we've also been very, very careful about what information we share regarding our military capabilities. Because you don't trust us. Because we don't know you yet. Trust takes time. Anna joined Lixmoth at the viewport. Every species that joins the Galactic community goes through a period of vulnerability. You're new, you're unknown, and you're surrounded by civilizations that have had thousands of years to establish themselves. Some of those civilizations are friendly, some are neutral, and some are predatory, Lixmoth finished. Yes, we've had species join the community only to be exploited by more established powers. It's a problem we've been trying to address. So you understand why humanity might be cautious? I do, but that doesn't explain what happened in the orientation hall. The scanner registered you as unknown, not zero, not low, unknown, as if it couldn't categorize what it was measuring. Lixmoth's colors shifted to an inquisitive yellow. Why? Anna was quiet for a moment, choosing her words carefully. Your scanner measures biological potential for combat, muscle density, reaction speed, natural weapons, skeletal structure, all the physical attributes that make a species dangerous in a fight. Correct. Humans don't have impressive biological attributes. We're not particularly strong. We're not particularly fast. We don't have claws or venom or armor. By the standards your scanner uses, we should register somewhere in the 40s or 50s. Adequate, but unremarkable. But you didn't. No, because the scanner also detected something it couldn't quantify. Our neural architecture is different. The way our brains process information, particularly threat assessment and pattern recognition. The scanner picked up on that, but didn't have a framework to measure it. Lixmoth pulsed with interest. Go on. Human combat ability isn't primarily biological, Anna said. It's cultural. We're not born warriors, we're born learners, and we've spent our entire evolutionary history learning how to fight things that were bigger, stronger, and better armed than we were. Every species has predators in their evolutionary history. True, but most species either developed biological advantages to deal with those predators, or they developed strategies to avoid them. Humans did something different. Anna turned from the viewport to face Lixmoth directly. We hunted them back. We didn't just survive our predators. We turned them into prey. Then we turned each other into prey. We've spent 10,000 years refining the art of killing things that should, by all biological metrics, be able to kill us easily. That's disturbing. That's humanity. Anna's expression was neutral, but her eyes were sharp. We don't fight with what we're born with. We fight with what we learn, what we build, and what we adapt. You can't measure that with a biological scanner because it's not in our bodies. It's in our culture, our history, our collective knowledge base. Lixmoth's colors cycled through several shades, processing, analyzing. So when Calix fought you, he was fighting 10,000 years of accumulated human combat doctrine. Every martial art, every military strategy, every hard lesson learned from every war we've ever fought. I'm just the current iteration of that knowledge. And you're not even military anymore? No. What did you do? Before you became a consultant? Anna smiled slightly. I taught children. Lixmoth's colors flashed bright white, the Ulfan equivalent of a shocked exclamation. You taught children? Martial arts, self-defense, discipline and focus through physical training. It's common on Earth. We teach our young how to fight as part of their basic education. You teach your children to be warriors. We teach our children to be capable. There's a difference. Anna picked up her datapad again. But, yes, combat training is considered a normal part of childhood development in most human cultures. Has been for thousands of years. Lixmoth was silent for a long moment, their colors muted. I need to report this to the Institute administration, and probably to the Galactic Council. I expected you would. They're going to want to know more about human combat capabilities, about what you're capable of. And I'll answer what I can, within the parameters of what my government has authorized me to share. Anna met Lixmoth's gaze, or what passed for a gaze with a floating telepathic jellyfish. But I should tell you something else, something important. What? I'm average. By human standards, I'm a completely average combatant. Competent, trained, experienced, but average. If you want to see what a truly exceptional human warrior is capable of, you'd need to bring in someone from our special forces. Our elite units. She paused. I'm not trying to intimidate you. I'm trying to give you accurate information. Because that's what observers do. Lixmoth's colors went very, very still. You're average. Yes. The person who just defeated one of our most accomplished instructors in single combat is average by human standards. Yes. I see. Lixmoth drifted toward the exit. I need to make some calls. Several calls. Possibly to people who are going to be very unhappy with what I tell them. I understand. Anna? Yes? Thank you for being honest, even if that honesty is terrifying. Anna smiled. You're welcome. After Lixmoth left, Anna returned to her datapad. But she wasn't reading the training manual anymore. She was composing a report of her own, one that would be transmitted back to Earth through encrypted channels. Assessment of Institute training protocols. Comprehensive but predictable. Recommendation. Current human military doctrine would be highly effective against Institute-trained opponents. Suggest maintaining information security protocols regarding human combat capabilities. She paused, then added one more line. Note. First contact went well. They seem nice. Haven't tried to conquer us yet. Outside the viewport, the stars continued their eternal dance, indifferent to the small dramas of the species that traveled between them. News traveled fast on Pinnacle 9. By the time Anna made it back to her assigned quarters, half the station knew that the human had beaten Instructor Galactic in a sparring match. By the time she'd finished her evening meal in the communal dining hall, where she'd been stared at by approximately 200 recruits from 60 different species, the other half knew too. And by the time she woke up the next morning, the entire station knew that Galactic had formally challenged her to a rematch. Not a training exercise. Not a demonstration. A formal challenge, sanctioned by the Institute, to be held in the Grand Arena, with full observation protocols. Anna read the notification on her datapad and sighed. Again. She was doing a lot of sighing lately. The message was professionally worded, but the subtext was clear. Galactic's reputation had taken a hit, and he needed to restore it. Publicly. With witnesses. And preferably with a decisive victory that would prove the previous match had been a fluke. There was a knock on her door. Well, not a knock exactly. More of a heavy thud that made the door frame vibrate. "It's open!" Anna called. Horm ducked through the doorway, his massive frame filling the small quarters. "I hope I'm not intruding. I wanted to. That is, I thought you should know." He trailed off, his large hands fidgeting nervously. "About the challenge. I just saw it." "Yes, that." Horm's ears flattened against his head, a locune expression of concern. "Galactic he's very skilled. And he's angry. When he's angry, he's dangerous. There have been accidents in the past. Training accidents, officially, but you think they weren't accidents. I think Galactic doesn't like being embarrassed. And I think he's very good at making things look accidental." Horm met her eyes. "You could refuse. There's no shame in declining a formal challenge when there's such a size and strength difference." Anna smiled. "That's kind of you, Horm, really. But I can't refuse." "Why not?" "Because if I do, every species in the galactic community will assume humans are afraid of direct confrontation. That we talk tough, but fold when challenged. And that perception will follow humanity for decades." She stood, stretching. "Besides, Lixmoth already explained this to me last night. One demonstration of cowardice colors perception of an entire species. Can't let that happen." "But you could be seriously hurt." "I could be," Anna agreed. "But I probably won't be." Horm looked like he wanted to argue further, but something in Anna's expression stopped him. Instead, he just nodded slowly. "Then I hope you're as good as you seem to be." "Me too." The Grand Arena was exactly as dramatic as its name suggested. A circular combat space 50 meters in diameter, surrounded by tiered seating that could accommodate thousands of spectators. Holographic displays floated above the arena, ready to provide multiple angles of the action. The floor was adaptive smart matter that could simulate different terrain types, but for this match, it was configured as a simple flat surface. Every seat was filled. Recruits, instructors, station personnel, even some visiting dignitaries who'd heard about the match and decided to observe. The betting pools had reached absurd levels. The odds heavily favored Galactic. He was bigger, stronger, more experienced, and fighting on his home territory in front of his peers. Anna entered through the south gate, wearing the same gray Institute jumpsuit she'd worn the day before. She carried nothing. No weapons, no armor, no equipment of any kind. The crowd's reaction was mixed. Some chittering laughter, some concerned murmurs, some respectful silence. Galactic entered through the north gate, and the crowd roared. He wore ceremonial Morthian combat armor, not full battle gear, but enough to show he was taking this seriously. 4 weapons, 1 in each hand, 2 blades, a short spear, and a weighted chain. All real weapons, not training equipment. Lick's moth floated above the arena, their telepathic voice projecting to everyone present. This is a formal challenge match under Institute protocols. Victory conditions, incapacitation, surrender, or first blood. Medical teams are standing by. Combatants, do you understand the terms? I do, Galactic said, his voice carrying across the arena. I do, Anna confirmed. Combatant Anna, you have the right to select weapons from the armory. Anna looked up at the floating instructor. I'm good, thanks. The crowd's murmuring intensified. She was going to fight unarmed against a four-armed opponent with multiple weapons? That wasn't confidence, that was suicide. Galactic's three eyes narrowed. You mock me by refusing weapons. I'm not mocking you, Anna said calmly. I'm just more comfortable this way. But if it makes you feel better, I'll use yours. What? Your weapons. I'll use them. Eventually. The crowd went silent. That was either the most arrogant thing they'd ever heard, or the most terrifying. Possibly both. Galactic's scales darkened to almost black. Begin! He roared. Licksmoth's telepathic voice echoed. Match begins now. Galactic didn't hesitate. He charged, all four weapons moving in a coordinated assault that would have shredded most opponents in seconds. The blade in his upper right hand came in high. The spear in his lower left thrust low. The chain in his upper left whipped toward her midsection, and the blade in his lower right swept horizontally. 4 simultaneous attacks from 4 different angles. Impossible to block. Impossible to dodge. Anna went low and forward, dropping into a slide that carried her under the high attacks and past the low ones. She came up inside Galactic's reach, her hand snapping out to grab the chain mid-swing. She yanked. Galactic, not expecting resistance from that angle, stumbled forward. His upper left arm, the one holding the chain, extended awkwardly. Anna's other hand struck his elbow joint. Not hard enough to break it, but hard enough to trigger an involuntary release reflex. The chain dropped. Anna caught it. 1, she said. The crowd erupted in noise. Galactic recovered quickly, spinning to face her. 3 weapons left. He was more cautious now, circling, looking for an opening. Anna mirrored his movement, the chain hanging loosely in her hand. She wasn't using it as a weapon yet, just holding it. You're fast, Galactic admitted, but speed alone won't. Anna flicked the chain. It wasn't a proper attack, just a distraction. But Galactic's eyes tracked it instinctively. In that half-second of divided attention, Anna closed the distance. Her foot hooked behind his ankle while her shoulder drove into his center mass. A basic takedown that relied on leverage and timing rather than strength. Galactic went down. Hard. His spear clattered across the arena floor. Anna picked it up. 2, she said. Galactic rolled to his feet, breathing hard now. 2 weapons left, both blades. His 3 eyes blazed with fury and something else. Respect, maybe, or the beginning of fear. You're not just fast, he said. You're trained. Really trained. Yes. What are you? Special Forces? Elite Guard? I told you yesterday. I taught children. Impossible. Anna shrugged. Believe what you want. They engaged again. This time it was faster, more brutal. Galactic had abandoned any pretense of holding back. His blades moved in patterns designed to kill, not disable. He was fighting for real now. So was Anna. She used the spear defensively, the chain offensively. The spear blocked and redirected his blade strikes, while the chain harassed him, forcing him to divide his attention. It wasn't elegant. It wasn't pretty. It was effective. Galactic's armor had weak points, joints, gaps, places where mobility required flexibility. Anna targeted them systematically. A chain strike to the back of his knee, a spear thrust to his shoulder joint. Not trying to injure, just trying to limit his mobility. His movements slowed. Not much, but enough. Anna saw her opening. She dropped the spear, used both hands on the chain, and whipped it around Calix's upper right wrist, the one holding his primary blade. A sharp pull, a twist, and the blade went flying. She caught it. Of course she caught it. 3, she said. 1 weapon left. Calix held his final blade in his lower right hand, his chest heaving with exertion. His armor was dented. His scales were dark with stress coloration. Yield, Anna said quietly. You fought well. There's no shame in yielding. There's shame in losing to someone half my size with no natural weapons. Only if you let there be. Calix looked at her for a long moment. Then, slowly, he lowered his blade. I yield. The crowd exploded. Cheering, roaring, chittering, howling, every species expressing astonishment in their own way. Lixmoth floated down to the arena floor. Match concluded. Victory to Anna. Anna dropped the weapons and walked over to Calix. She extended her hand, a human gesture he probably didn't understand. He stared at it. It's a sign of respect, she explained. You fought honorably. You're an excellent warrior. Calix, slowly, reached out with one of his hands and grasped hers. What are you really? He asked quietly, so only she could hear. Human, Anna said simply. Just human. Later, in the administrative offices, Lixmoth filed their report to the Galactic Council. The document was thorough, detailed, and deeply concerning. Subject: Human Combat Capabilities Assessment. Conclusion: Humans represent a significant military variable in galactic affairs. Their combat effectiveness derives not from biological advantages, but from cultural factors, specifically an evolutionary history of persistence hunting, intraspecies warfare, and systematic knowledge transfer across generations. The individual observed, Anna, civilian consultant, demonstrated combat capabilities exceeding 95% of Institute instructors, despite claiming to be average by human standards. If accurate, this suggests human military personnel would be significantly more capable. Recommendation: Humanity should not be underestimated or provoked. Their danger lies not in their biology, but in their adaptability and their cultural emphasis on continuous improvement in warfare. They are not the strongest species, nor the fastest, nor the most naturally armed, but they may be the most dangerous because they have spent their entire existence learning how to defeat opponents who were all of those things. Additional note: they seem genuinely interested in peaceful cooperation. Suggest maintaining positive relations. Anna sat in her quarters, video call active on her datapad. On the screen, a group of children in martial arts uniforms waved enthusiastically. Miss Anna, did you fight any aliens? I did, Anna said, smiling. Very skilled ones. Did you win? I did okay. Did you use the spinning kick we learned? Not this time, but I used the principles we practice. Balance, timing, reading your opponent. The children cheered. When are you coming home? One small voice asked. Soon, Anna promised. A few more weeks of observation, then I'll be back. After the call ended, Anna looked out her viewport at the stars. Somewhere out there was Earth, humanity's small blue marble, home to 8 billion people who were still figuring out their place in a galaxy full of species that had been spacefaring for millennia. And that's how humanity announced itself to the galaxy. Not with a roar, but with a polite smile and a disarming demonstration that average for humans meant something very different than it did for everyone else. They weren't the biggest, or the strongest, or the fastest, but they were learners, adapters, survivors who'd turned survival into an art form. The galaxy was still figuring out what that meant, but they were starting to understand that underestimating humans was a mistake you only made once.